Across the arid landscapes of Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia, there exists an insect whose presence can reshape entire ecosystems and alter human history. It is small, lightweight, and unassuming when alone. Yet under the right conditions, it becomes something vastly more powerful than the sum of its parts. This is the desert locust, an insect capable of transforming from a solitary grasshopper into a coordinated, unstoppable swarm that darkens skies, devours fields, and moves with the force of a natural disaster. The desert locust, scientifically known as Schistocerca gregaria, occupies one of the most extreme ecological roles of any insect on Earth. Its story is not defined by strength or venom, but by numbers, behavior, and an extraordinary capacity for transformation. Unlike most animals, the desert locust exists in two dramatically different forms, known as phases. These phases are not separate species, but alternative expressions of the same organism, triggered entirely by environmental conditions. In its solitary phase, the desert locust lives a quiet and largely unnoticed life. Individuals are spread out across vast desert regions, avoiding one another and blending into the landscape with muted brown or green coloration. Their behavior is cautious and reserved. They feed modestly on sparse vegetation and pose little threat to their surroundings. In this form, the desert locust is just another insect surviving in one of the harshest environments on the planet. But deserts are not static places. Rare periods of heavy rainfall can transform barren land into temporary fields of green. Vegetation blooms, moisture increases, and locust populations begin to grow. As numbers rise, individuals are forced into closer contact with one another. This physical contact, especially repeated touching of the hind legs, triggers a remarkable neurological and hormonal response. The locusts begin to change. This shift marks the transition into the gregarious phase, a transformation that is both behavioral and physical. Locusts become more active, more social, and more aggressive. Their coloration shifts to bold yellows and blacks, signaling a complete change in identity. What was once an individual insect now becomes part of a collective organism, a swarm that can contain billions of individuals moving in coordinated waves across continents. The evolutionary origins of this transformation lie in survival itself. In unpredictable desert environments, food availability can fluctuate dramatically. When resources are scarce, solitude reduces competition. When resources suddenly become abundant, rapid reproduction followed by migration ensures survival beyond the temporary green zones. The desert locust's ability to switch between these two modes is one of the most extreme examples of phenotypic plasticity known in the animal kingdom. Physically, desert locusts are well adapted for long-distance travel. Their powerful hind legs allow them to leap great distances, while their wings enable sustained flight. In swarm form, they can travel up to 150 kilometers in a single day, carried by winds and driven by hunger. Unlike migratory animals that follow fixed routes, locust swarms are opportunistic, moving wherever conditions allow survival and feeding. Feeding behavior is where the true impact of the desert locust is felt. A single locust consumes roughly its own body weight in vegetation each day. When multiplied by millions or billions, the result is devastating. Entire fields of crops can be stripped bare within hours. Grasses, leaves, bark, and even crops intended for human consumption are consumed indiscriminately. The swarm does not stop to rest. It moves forward, feeding continuously, leaving barren land in its wake. The social dynamics of a locust swarm are complex and relentless. Movement is not random. Individuals align with one another, responding to visual cues and air currents, maintaining cohesion across vast distances. This collective behavior reduces predation risk, overwhelms local ecosystems, and ensures that the swarm functions as a single, unified force. Predators that might easily consume a solitary locust are rendered ineffective by sheer numbers. Reproduction accelerates within swarms. Females lay eggs in moist soil, often synchronizing their activity across large areas. These eggs hatch into hopper bands, dense masses of wingless juveniles that move together across the ground, consuming everything in their path. As they mature and develop wings, they join the aerial swarm, continuing the cycle. Under favorable conditions, locust populations can increase 20-fold within just a few months. The desert locust's habitat spans some of the most politically and environmentally unstable regions of the world. This makes monitoring and control extremely challenging. Swarms do not respect borders, and their movements are influenced by weather patterns that are increasingly unpredictable due to climate change. Changes in rainfall intensity and frequency have created more frequent conditions favorable for swarm formation, increasing the likelihood of large-scale outbreaks. The ecological role of the desert locust is paradoxical. In natural systems, locusts can contribute to nutrient cycling by breaking down vegetation and redistributing organic matter across landscapes. However, when populations explode beyond natural limits, this role shifts from regenerative to destructive. The balance between ecological function and catastrophe is razor-thin, and human agriculture often lies directly in the path. Human history is deeply intertwined with desert locust outbreaks. Ancient texts describe plagues of locusts as symbols of devastation and divine punishment. Entire civilizations have faced famine as a result of swarm activity. Even today, despite modern technology, desert locusts remain one of the most serious threats to food security in vulnerable regions. Their impact is not only ecological but economic and social, affecting millions of people. Efforts to control desert locust populations rely on early detection and rapid response. Satellite monitoring, ground surveys, and predictive modeling are used to identify breeding grounds before swarms form. Chemical pesticides remain a primary control method, though they raise concerns about environmental and human health. Biological controls and targeted treatments are being developed, but the scale and speed of locust outbreaks make complete prevention nearly impossible. Climate change adds a new layer of uncertainty to the future of desert locust dynamics. Warmer temperatures, altered wind patterns, and increased rainfall variability may expand suitable habitats and extend breeding seasons. This could lead to more frequent and more intense outbreaks, testing the limits of current management strategies. The desert locust, already a master of adaptation, may find new opportunities in a changing world. Despite its destructive reputation, the desert locust is not an evil force. It is an organism responding to environmental signals, following evolutionary programming refined over millions of years. Its transformation from solitude to swarm is not a choice, but a biological response to conditions that favor survival through movement and numbers. Understanding this distinction is essential for developing effective and sustainable control measures. The desert locust stands as a powerful reminder of how small organisms can exert enormous influence. It challenges the assumption that size determines impact and reveals how collective behavior can rival the forces of weather and geology. In the deserts where life is already fragile, the arrival of a locust swarm can mean the difference between survival and collapse. In the end, the story of the desert locust is a story of transformation. It is a lesson in adaptability, collective behavior, and the delicate balance between nature and human systems. From a single insect feeding quietly in the sand to a living cloud that reshapes landscapes, the desert locust embodies the thin line between resilience and ruin.